Hi there! In today's video we are looking at the new GPT-4 function calling API for PHP. So if you didn't already know, OpenAI released some updates to their API recently, and they added this function calling capability. And this makes it really easy for you to call some of your own code with ChatGPT. Now ChatGPT doesn't really actually call the code, but you can explain to it what functions are available for it. And then when you send a message to it, it can decide to use one of those functions. And by use, I mean it will tell you, I want to use this function with these parameters. And then you can take that and it's going to be a JSON object that you can then parse, and then you can pass into your actual functions, and then you can do amazing things. Now I created already an example with Python, but I'm not really a Python developer, I'm a PHP developer, so let's create this in PHP. So if we take a look at this Python example, we are defining a function here for getting the current weather, and it takes a location. And then if we don't have a location, then we return location must be provided. Otherwise we say the weather is nice and sunny. Now of course this would be actually some call to some API to get the actual location, but this is just an example. And then down here we are defining the GPT functions. So this is the information that is sent to ChatGPT. So we tell it you can use get current weather function, and the description is get the current weather information. And then we pass in the parameters location, which is a string, and we give a description for this parameter, an optional location for which to get the weather information. And then we just send this message to ChatGPT with the list of functions and the function call set to auto. And then we get the response, and when we get the response we can see that it is a function call, and then we can run the function. So let's implement this now in PHP. So let's start here a new file. Let's call it chatbot.php. And let's start by defining our functions. So let's create a function get current weather, and it will take a location, and it will return the weather is nice and sunny. Now in my example here I'm checking if the location is none, but you don't actually have to do this, because if you set it required here, then ChatGPT already understands that it should ask for the location because it needs the location. So we will just do this. So this function can do anything on your server. So it could connect to some weather API and then return the actual weather for the given location. Okay? And then let's explain this function to ChatGPT. So let's say functions equals, and we will create an array here, which will be actually a JSON object. And I of course don't remember the format, so I will just copy this and I will explain all of these parts. So of course we cannot use dictionaries in PHP, so we have to do this. We convert this to an array, and in fact all of these will be converted into brackets, and all of these columns will be converted into arrows. So that's basically it. So we have get current weather and get the current weather information. And then all of this is just some boilerplate. I think this comes from some JSON schema or something. But really you just have to worry about this array here. So we have the parameters here. So we have location, and we have a type which is a string, and then a location. I will remove this optional. Location for which to get the weather information. And I will set it as required. So I will say location is required. So now that we have defined this function for ChatGPT and actually created the function, then now we have to send the request to ChatGPT. And we can easily do that with curl. So we can define actually a function here. Function send message. And let's take the message and let's do ch equals curl init. And then we have to pass in the URL of the API of OpenAI. So let's go to platform.openai.com and let's go to the API reference and let's go to chat, and here we have the curl example. So let's copy this here so we can model it. So we are going to post to the completions API, and then we have to set these headers. So let's do curl set opt ch and curl opt HTTP header. And we can pass in an array, and we can set here content type. Actually, I think it's this way, just content type application slash JSON and authorization bearer, and we have to put our API key in here. So let's pass it in here to the function. So that's done. Then we have to send this kind of message to it, so a JSON string. So we can say curl set opt ch post fields, curl of post fields. And here we will say JSON encode. And here we have to create an array which will be converted into a JSON string. So what do we have in here? We have the model. Now for the model, we have to use the GPT-4 0613, which supports the function calling. The old ones don't support it. And then we have to set the messages, which will be an array. And it is an array of objects which have a role, which is user, and a content, which is the message that we gave. And again, this array will be turned into an object in JSON when we call JSON encode. And that's basically it, how you send a message. But now we don't have the functions here. So then we have to go back to the API, and here we have model messages and we have functions. So this is an array of objects that have name, description, parameters, and so on. So it will be exactly this: name, description, parameters. So in fact, it is the whole functions array that we created here. So we just pass in here functions is functions. And we have to set function call to auto. Now this can also be none. So what this means is that if you set it to auto, then ChatGPT will decide based on the message whether it will answer with just a normal message or with a function call. Now you can also set it to a specific function. So if you want to always run the function from this message, then I could call here get current weather. But we'll set it to auto, so it will decide what it wants to do. And then we have to do a couple more things just for curl. So we do curl set opt ch curl post curl opt post equal to true, so that this will be a post request. I think you still have to define this even if you have post fields. And we have to say curl opt return transfer, so that we actually get the answer back from ChatGPT. And that might be all. So then we can just return curl exec ch. And we can in fact do JSON decode. Now, of course, you should handle some errors here, but this is just a simple example. So let's try to see what kind of output we get from this. So if we call send message, and we will say, what's the weather like in San Francisco? And we pass in our API key, which I have to get from somewhere. And I will print R this. And I will set the API key to my API key. Now we do get env OpenAI API key. I might in fact have that already set. And of course, we don't have access to these functions, so we will pass it in here as well. To functions and pass it in here. Functions. And let's see what happens. So we will do PHP chatbot.php. And we are waiting for a message, and we got something back. And here we have an ID of the chat completion and all this stuff here that we don't need. We only want the message, which has the role assistant, and content is empty, and function call is an object. Now this object contains the name of the function we want to call and the argument. So it said, okay, call get current weather function with location San Francisco, because we asked what is the weather like in San Francisco. So now in order to actually run the command, we have to get the function call data from here. So this is an object, so we get the choices, which is an array, and the zeros key and message, and that will be an object. So we can do something like this. We set the response to that, and then we will say if is set response choices 0 message function call. Then we will call a function. So then we'll say that function name will be function call. Let's actually call this function call. It's that. And then we will say that function name is function call function name. I believe that was it. So it is going to be an object. Yes. Oh, it's just name. So name and arguments. And seems like the arguments is a string, if I'm not mistaken. So we have to say arguments is function call arguments. And this one just was name. Now I have to call JSON decode with this because it is a string. And I will pass the true here so that it will be an associative array. So in this case it will be like this. It will be location San Francisco. So then we can pass this into our function. Now we could just do function name ... arguments. But this is not very safe because we can call any function now. So we should have a list of functions that we can call. Now actually we have encoded the functions here, so we could somehow search it from this array. Let's create a function. Function is available. Function name. And there's probably some simple one-liner you could use here, but I will just do for each functions. I will pass it here. Functions as function if function name equals function name, then return true. Otherwise return false. So this should tell us if the function is defined in this array. So we can do here if function is available, function name in the functions, then we run the function. And then the return value from this function we have to pass into ChatGPT so that we can get the next answer. Because we don't necessarily want to have the return value from this function to be the message to the user. We want to pass this to ChatGPT and then ChatGPT will create the answer. Because this might be in JSON format with like the location data and the weather information and all that stuff. So let ChatGPT parse that. We don't want to parse that. So we can call this result. And then we can do else. Result will be function unavailable. And then how do we pass this back to ChatGPT? Well, what we have to do is we have to go back to the documentation. And here in the messages array, we have a new role called function. So we have to send a function back with the content of the function and the name of the function. So then we can do this. Message equals, and we will make an array again, and it will be role function, and content will be the result of the function, and name will be the function name. And then we have to send this to ChatGPT. So we can say again that response equals send message, and we send the message. Now I should have set this to be actually the whole object or array. So let's change that. And we pass in the functions again, and we pass in the API key. And let's do it this way. In fact, we will just say messages is message. And let's say this is an array. And then here we have to send it this way. So now that should work. So if we have a function call, we get the function name and we get the arguments. And if the function is available, we call the function and get the result. Otherwise we say function unavailable. And then we create a message of that function so that we can pass it back to ChatGPT. And then we get the response from ChatGPT and then we will return it. So let's just print our response. And let's do here else echo no function call. Now there's one more thing we have to do because this has no idea of the context of this chat now. So we have to send the previous messages as well. So let's add here messages as an array. And then when we define it, it is also array messages. Now it would be probably nice to make like a message type so both of these are not arrays. That's kind of weird. But we will have an array of messages and I will in fact pass it as the last one because this will be an optional. It will start with an empty array. And then we will just pass it here messages. And here we will add to it the new message that we got. So we will say messages equals message. So now we can keep track of the old messages, and every time we call send message, we pass in the old messages and then we add the new message to it. So then we can go back here and I will change this messages to be the last one here. And in fact, I have to get the response here. So we'll say response is that, and then we will say messages, add to it the message. So this one. So we add the message that we got from ChatGPT to the messages array, and then we just return the messages. So we put in a message and the old messages, and we get out that message plus the new message from ChatGPT and the old messages. So then what we have to do is we have to say messages equals that. And then we can say that response is messages -1. Can I do this already in PHP? I've been running Python now, and that is a very nice syntax. So we should get the last element in the messages array, because that will be the response from ChatGPT. And I will call it actually message. And this whole thing will be message. And I'll actually try this. PHP a messages equals 1, 2, 3, 4. Echo messages -1. No, I cannot do that. Messages. So what should I do? Array pop, but that removes it from there, right? Print R messages. Yeah, it removes it. So let's just do old school count messages -1. Okay, so then we do all this stuff and we make the new message and we send it, and this will be again messages. And here we are passing the old messages, which is this. So that's why we cannot modify this. We can't pop it. And then we can say that the response, so the message from ChatGPT, will be again this stuff. And we can print our message. So let's see if this now works. So let's run chatbot.php and we got some errors. Let's go on line 56. And for some reason this didn't work. Perhaps I have ran out of money in my OpenAI account. That is correct. I've been testing out this GPT-4 API too much with my GPT Autopilot project. So let's set this to the maximum limit of $120. So please, if you enjoy this video, then click the link in the description and send me some more tokens so I can pay to make these videos. So I'll now wait for a while until the rate limit goes away, and then I can try again. Now, while we are waiting, we could implement some sort of error handling here. So we can say something like if is set. If this is not set, then we say if is set choices 0 error. I forgot how the error works. Perhaps it is like that, and then we can do something like throw new exception error in OpenAI request, and we will pass in the error. And we can actually do something like this and say that this will be the error, and if we have the error, this should be error, then error will be that, otherwise error will be just the plain response. So let's do curl exec is that, and then we will just pass in the curl exec. Just as simple error handling here. So let's do that, and let's see if we have some tokens now. So let's run this, and we got something. You exceeded your current quota. Please check your plan and billing details. Okay, it takes a while for it to update, so we have to wait for a while. Alright, I have waited for a moment. Let's see what happens now. We are doing something, and we got a message back from Assistant. The weather is nice and sunny in San Francisco. So now it works. Now, of course, this is just a single run script, and now it forgets everything. So we could put this in a loop so that we can actually chat with ChatGPT. So let's do that. So here we are sending the message. So what we will actually do is we will first ask the user for input. So let's do prompt equals, and how do I read from the terminal? do like f gets from PHP input, and I echo here, what would you like to know? Let's add here, ChatGPT says that, and a new line. And then we will echo you. And of course, this should be file get contents. This is not the right way to do this. I think this will work. And then we will pass in this prompt as the content of the first message. And then we will do while true. We will do the rest of this thing. So if the message is a function call, we call the function and we send another message. And we set the message to the new message. And we don't print anything here, but we go to the next iteration. And again we check, is the message a function call? Which it won't be anymore because it will be the response from ChatGPT. So then we will go here. And now we have to implement this. So this is the scenario when ChatGPT responds with just a message. So then what we can do is we can say that echo ChatGPT, and we will put here the message content and a new line. And then of course we have to say you again so that the user can put their next message. And we will do this again. So we send a message and then we get the message again from the latest message and we loop through this thing again, and that should be a chatbot if this garbage works. So if I run this now, I get an error. So let's do it properly. PHP read input from std_in. fopen. Okay, let's do that. So in fact we can do this, and we say the prompt is that. And I guess we have to close the freaking thing. So for the sake of brevity, I will remove fclose from here. We don't have to close files. What you saying? It's gonna be closed after the script ends. And let's move this up here as well. And let's do this again. So now it will say, what would you like to know? And I can just say hello. And then it should respond, hello, how can I assist you today? And then I can say, I was just wondering what the weather is like in San Francisco. And then it will answer to me, the weather in San Francisco is currently nice and sunny. So now it works. So let's close this and let's go back up here. So now if we want to define some more functions, then what could we do? Well, we could implement something like this. We could create a new function, add to cart, which takes a product and an amount, a quantity. And let's just do this with global for now, so we can just make a quick demo. So let's say cart. So let's say cart is an empty array. And we will say add to the cart product. In fact, let's do this. Let's say product plus equals quantity. And if it is not set, then the quantity will be 0. And I have to type this properly. Okay, so we add to cart a product with a specified quantity. And then we increment the quantity of the product in the cart by the amount, by the quantity. And then we could add something like function get cart contents. And that doesn't take anything. And then we will just return JSON encode cart. And we will use global here again. So now we can add to cart and we can get cart contents. So let's define these functions for ChatGPT. So let's copy this thing. And let's call this add to cart. Adds a product to cart. And it will take the product, which will be the name of the product. And it will take the quantity, which will be an integer. I'm not sure if I have to use int or integer. Maybe integer. And well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's gonna know that it's gonna be an integer. And description will be quantity to add to cart. And required is product and quantity. And then let's do the same thing with get cart contents. Get cart contents. And this will get the products in the shopping cart. And it will not take any properties. This should be optional At least it says so in the documentation. But in the Python version of the OpenAI library, it is required. Yes, it is optional. So let's not add it. But I think that's just a problem of the library. But in the actual API, it should work. Wait a minute. I think I did it wrong. Parameters is not okay. So I have to remove the whole thing. Just name and description. Okay, that's enough. But I did something funny. This should be in an array. And these should be in an array as well. So now that we have defined these, if we define them properly, then we could start another chat. And we could say, add 5 apples to the cart. Why does it say that? What's the weather like? Could you tell the location? Boston. Current weather in Boston is nice and sunny. Okay, something went wrong with my function definitions. Perhaps we have to set a system message. It doesn't understand that it can do this. So let's do this. Let's say if empty messages, then let's add a system message. So on the first time we call send message, we will add a system message. So let's say messages equals role system and content will be you are a chatbot on an online store. You can add products to cart by specifying a product name and a quantity to add. Perhaps that is enough. So let's try one more time. Please add 5 apples to cart. Sorry, as an AI, I don't have the functionality to add items to the cart. Wait a minute. Okay, here's the problem. I'm not returning anything from my function. So I have to return added product to cart. Now this can be just a string or it can be JSON like here. It doesn't matter. And let's try this one more time. Please add 5 apples to cart. Sure, I've added 5 apples to your cart. I need 5 slices of bread as well. Sure, I'm adding 5 slices of bread to your cart. What do I have in my cart right now? As a language model AI developed by OpenAI, I don't have access to your user data, including online cart details, for privacy and confidentiality reasons. You need to check your cart. Okay. Perhaps this is not in the proper format, so let's do something like this. Let's say contents, and say contents is contents in cart. Actually, I will just make it an array, but I will make it in a different format. Oh yeah, I will do this. I'll say contents in cart, and then I will do for each of cart as product quantity. I will say contents dot equals name product. Let's do this. Contents is an array, and I will say contents push an array that is name product and quantity. Let's call this like cart is an array, and then let's say add to the cart this. Maybe it will understand this, and JSON encode. So this should work. Let's try one more time. Now, okay, perhaps we have to add it to the system message. You can add products to cart by specifying a product name and a quantity to add. You can also get the current contents of the cart with the get cart contents function. So you really have to explain to it. Maybe that's like a privacy restriction that it tries to not do things that it's not directly said it can do because it could leak some information. So let's see if it works now. Add 5 apples and 35 oranges to the cart. Sure, I have added 5 apples and 35 oranges to your cart. Do you want to add anything else? What do I have in my cart right now? I'm sorry for the confusion, but as a conversational assistant, I'm not able to access the current cart contents. However, you can typically check this information. It's time to debug something. Get cart contents. JSON decode. JSON encode. Let's add here cart contents. And let's do get cart contents. Description, get the products in the shopping cart. Get the current products in the shopping cart. Yeah, and let's do here print R this. So we can see every message that comes from ChatGPT. What do I have in my cart right now? Get cart contents. Okay. I'm sorry, I am unable to retrieve your cart information. Please try checking later. Okay, so maybe I just have to return your cart is empty. If count cart is 0, return the cart is empty. Let's try again. What is in my cart? That's interesting. What did we return? I didn't show that. Let's add here print R message. What is in my cart? Okay, so it didn't call the function. Is that correct? Wait a minute. You can provide the user with the contents of the cart when they ask. What is in my shopping cart? Okay. Function unavailable. Get cart contents. Get cart contents. Did I mistype something? Get cart contents. Get cart contents. Function name. Function unavailable. So yeah, it called get cart contents, but then I answered with function unavailable. Okay, that's the problem. My thing doesn't work. Functions as function. If function name equals function name. Get cart contents. Is it because of the triple equals? Let's do trim here, just to be sure. Function name. Function is available. Function name. Function call name. And let's add here function name. And let's try this again. What is in my shopping cart? Function get cart contents unavailable. What? This is some stupid mistake now. What am I doing here? This should be like that. That's the first function. Then we have the second function and the third function. Okay, my mistake. So now it should work. What is in my cart? Oops. Parameters is a required property. Okay, so it is actually an error in the documentation. Parameters is optional. Okay, so let's provide it with the parameters. Yeah, that is interesting. I don't know how to provide this. So, parameters. So can properties be empty and required empty? What is in my shopping cart? Get cart contents. Empty is not of type object. Okay, so I have to do the same thing as I did with my Python GPT autopilot. I will just add here cart, and it's a string, and always set to cart. And I don't have to care about that. And I can actually call a function that doesn't have any parameters with a parameter. Can I? I don't know. Let's just call it param. And let's try this the 57th time. What is in my cart? Arguments cart, cart. Okay? Unknown parameter cart. So my ... operator brings in the actual name of the argument. I don't want that. I will just say array values. So let's do that. What is in my cart? The cart is empty. Your shopping cart is currently empty. Okay, so now let's remove our print R's from here. Print R and finally demo this thing properly. Okay. Hello. Hello. How can I assist you today? I would like to add a new laptop to the shopping cart. Now this is a very stupid thing to say because there are many types of laptops, but maybe it will do it. I have added a new laptop to your shopping cart. Is there anything else you want to add? 5 slices of bread and a flat screen TV. Add another flat screen TV to the cart. How many flat screen TVs do I have in the cart? You currently have 2 flat screen TVs in your cart. Now we can't remove or change the quantities. Although I guess we could, because we just add -1. Let's see. Please remove the other one. I'm sorry for the confusion, but as a chatbot, I don't currently have the ability to remove items from the cart. Can I coax it into doing it? You can add a negative number. Dude, I'm sorry, but I can't process that request. The quantity you want to add to cart must be a positive number, okay? Fine. What do I have in my cart? 1 laptop, 5 slices of bread, 2 flat screen TVs. So now it works. We have successfully built a command line chatbot with PHP using the OpenAI API and the function calling. So I hope you liked this video, and you can find this code on my GitHub repository if you want to use it in some of your projects or make it better or something. And make sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.